Welcome to Loaded and Rolling. I'm Thomas Wasson. Today's going to be a very special episode. We're having the folks at Dreyev coming to join us and talk about not only the state of driver monitoring, but what you need to know. There is a flood of software solutions offering to give you help with virtual drivers, but the question is, are all of them helpful, or is there something you really need to know about when you're trying to make these decisions, especially given the risks and safety and everything else going on? So I'm super excited to be welcoming three guests here. We're going to be welcoming on Maggie Stys, the CEO and co-founder of Dreyev. We'll have Roberto Sicconi, the CTO and co-founder, and then we'll have Peter Smelzer. He's a fleet risk advisor. And so super excited to have everyone on. We're going to start with Maggie. Give us some of the backstory. Tell us about yourself, and then we'll work our way down the line.
Sure. Thanks so much for having us, Thomas. So at Dreyev, we're on a mission to make every driver safer, not by watching them, but by empowering them. So we've built a on-the-edge smartphone-based platform that uses real-time AI to anticipate risks. We both, Roberto and I, come from the IBM Watson world. I've been working for IBM, as part, but we graduated from IBM and then we set up our own company called Dreyev. The idea really started with a very simple belief. We saw a lot of accidents out there, distracted, drowsy accidents, and said, hey, technology can partner with drivers instead of policing them, provide a guardian angel, very contained. So it's an embedded solution. It's on your phone. You don't want us to send stuff to the cloud. We can certainly do that. So we've seen that the drivers understand what the AI sees, and they get immediate feedback that's fair. We think is fair. It's real time, and their behavior changes naturally. That's what we've seen, and that's the future of safety that we're building.
Well, I'm excited about it as well. You guys have a really cool team, and especially with the technology, having it based on the phone. I want to get from a technology standpoint, let's ask Roberto, tell us about some of the early days, the tech, and a little bit about you as well.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky enough to work on a series of bleeding edge technologies at IBM in different research organizations. My passion is in image video processing, speech recognition, synthesis, dialogue management, NLU, anything that has to do with the human-machine interactions. At some point, beginning of 2002, 2003, I became the appointed person at IBM working with Honda on the next generation conversation capabilities in cars. The idea was to bring in speech as an alternative to buttons to make the interaction less distracting. So that was the notion. And then moving forward, I realized that there's a lot more than just having a voice conversation with the driver. You have to understand when the conversation can be had without creating any issues, and what is important, and how make information relevant and play it at the right time, or stop talking when not necessary. That was the initial idea behind the solution we have today. The technologies were tested on all kinds of platforms before we got our company together, but it allowed me to understand that the future was going to be on the phone. A few years ago, capabilities of phones became sufficient to run even sophisticated computer vision capabilities, and later AI to process the context, understand the risk on a relatively affordable device. So that's really the base of our offering. And as we move forward, I think this is going to become even more obvious that it's the best platform you can have in a car.
Yeah, and then Peter, give us a quick intro. Then I want to dive into this is super unique because having it phone-based, a lot of other people are having built-in hardware itself with cameras and other stuff. There's something to it. I want to dive into that for a minute. But Peter, give us your background real quick as well, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Pete Smelzer. I've been working with large fleets for, about 30 years now, helping them design their insurance program to use it as a mechanism for leverage to reduce their cost of insurance. And boy, what a time we're living in. Trucking, it's never an easy thing. They've always got constant obstacles going on. And I think Roberto hit it on the head when he was talking about, the evolution of technology, right? And adaptation also. When cameras first came out, they were in the trucks, drivers would unplug them, they'd threaten to quit. They didn't realize how that technology could potentially exonerate them from future claims from happening, because it's picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So I think even now it's a revolutionary time, and I'm super excited to talk about it.
So let's talk about what makes having device move it to the phone. That's very fascinating, because I remember a lot of the big technology that I've reported on in conversations, everyone's excited to have a standalone, they have a dash camera, front facing, rear facing, we have all this edge compute. But if you think about it, there's a front and rear facing edge compute capability and a phone. So talk about this migration of the device, Roberto, Maggie, whoever wants to take it. What makes that so unique?
Yeah, let me make a little analogy. You're talking about the dedicated devices. At least I'm old enough to remember that there used to be something called a landline phone that you had installed in your home. And yes, it was dedicated, it was working properly, it was giving you phone conversations reliably, but you could not move it around easily unless you had a long cable, and even then you're limited. So I think we are moving to a new generation of devices that go with you, rather than become part of the environment. And the phone is a clear example of what is possible and why it is preferable to other devices. That also cuts down the cost of dedicated devices you don't have to install. You can use whatever you already have. That's one of the markets we are addressing right now. And it's a kind of similar to the revolution that happened with PCs a long time ago, decades ago, where you would use the PC for everything incrementally. And then all of a sudden, some of the things that required dedicated devices were supplanted by a program, an application. And the phone right now is the new generation PC, really.
So if I may add to this, Thomas, there is the flexibility angle also that comes with a smartphone, right? You can take it off, put it on. Actually, some people have problems with it. I'm like, you have gig drivers who do it every day as part of their jobs. And this is actually one of our sweet spots for servicing gig drivers. But the flexibility angle adds this, hey, idea of I can take the phone off the mount and do a pre-trip, post-trip check. God forbid there is a crash. I can document that. It's timestamp, date stamp. It's right there. No AI fraud possible. We can showcase that. And it's all part of a streamlined application. But bottom line is what Roberto just mentioned. We believe that safety should not depend on how much one can afford to install in their cabin. It should be as simple as having a smartphone, a commitment to come home safely every day. So that's kind of the angle that we took many years ago when everybody was criticizing us. And I think Roberto and his team was one of the first in the world that put this stuff, the heavy analytics stuff, pretty complex stuff, in a simple app called Drive right now. Now it's possible, and this is the platform that's, kind of the hardware that's out there, that's prominent on almost every people's, everyone's cars.
And you guys are in it's an advantageous position, because a lot of the challenges I hear from some telematics providers is they have to do iterative hardware updates. They have to design it, they have to manufacture it, what's the compute, but having it as an app-based and then utilizing the computer vision on the device means that as the phone makers are improving their offerings to attract consumers, now the app is naturally becoming more powerful. So it's kind of one of those things where you're cutting out the middle person and having the special suppliers, the white glove installations, all this other stuff.
Yeah, not only
can't unplug it.
And the other advantage is that the economy of scale of phones makes the same technology much cheaper in phone form rather than a dedicated device. So you can go to next generation support to the driver more easily and more affordably than by removing the existing dash cam and replacing it with a new one. The other advantage is that all the processing happens on the phone in real time. So even if you're not connected for whatever reason in the middle of a disconnected area, you can still have all the safety features that come with it. And one of the primary goals of our solutions is to provide you assistance, give you feedback. It's not only about monitoring the driver. We want to help the driver understand if there's risk that he may not be aware of. So we
talk about that's why I was curious as well. You mentioned, unplugging the device. And that was something that I dealt with when I managed drivers was they'd say, oh, well, it just became unplugged or I just forgot. Is this something where folks are like buying their own, you got your work phone and your personal phone, or do you see a lot of fleets using it on the personal phone? There's a great opportunity here I'm trying to think about. I'm just curious how you're currently seeing the adoption of these mobile devices.
I would say if you speak with the fleet manager and the drivers are employed, the dedicated phone is usually preferred so that you don't have to deal with the individual phones and people using them on their own cost. If you talk with the contractors, they prefer to use their own phone and not have to install something that you require. So in that case, it's easier to have their own phone. Whatever the capabilities are, we can customize the operation based on that. And then you can always gear towards a dedicated phone or tablet if you want, but it's not necessary. So either approach works.
Yeah. Pete, let me grab your thoughts from a fleet risk standpoint. Is this something, we hear about two-factor authentication and everything else. The devices are updating if you hack a truck, but usually these are like biometric now. The ability for these mobile devices to have much more security and safety. How does this kind of tie into the risk management portfolio for fleets making these decisions?
I think it's really interesting. That's a great question. We were talking about things constantly evolving, and cyber risk is something that was virtually unheard of, probably 15 years ago or something. And now, it's more important than ever. And even the smaller, size businesses are just as, if not more vulnerable than large corporations. We've seen some of those big ones get hit before, and they have a lot of the revenue to throw at it, right? Some of the smaller folks don't. Some deals are pierced just by, an independent contractor coming in and working on somebody's technology in their retail store, right? So I think it's definitely something that's I think every business should really get a good cyber policy that has forensic investigation opportunities in there, has coverage for ransomware and all that sort of thing. And I don't think there's an exception to the motor carriers either. I think those folks are just as much vulnerable as any other type of business.
And let's talk about Walter. I looked on the website, the technology, the assistant helper's name was Walter. Tell me some of the background, because one of the challenges when we're talking about not only driver monitoring, how do we nudge them? How do we give the feedback? Let's dive into some of that. Are there any kind of advantages having it mobile based, or is there a specific approach? I know you all mentioned your extensive backgrounds, formerly at IBM. You got to imagine there's been decades of research in how to use UX, UI, and user interface. Any cool learnings, or talk about what makes that unique?
Well, first a word about Walter. Walter used to be my grandfather. He was a fanatic, very passionate car driver. He had all his life high-end cars, BMW, Audi, Mercedes. He was very proud and very good driver. When I got my driver's license, I drove him around a little bit and tried to do my best. And I kept explaining to him what I was about to do, etc. And in the end, he told me, look, you are an excellent driver, but you are too distracted. And I was trying to showcase that I was comfortable. I knew the area, I knew what I was going to do, but I was constantly looking at him and said, no, that's not good. You have to look at the road. So there was an early lesson that I got back then. And I realized that later on, as I developed that experience, that it is important to always pay attention to the road. Even if you have a partially self-driving vehicle, you have to supervise it. You have to make sure that you know what's going on and you're ready to take over if that's the case. And the system has to know whether you are aware of not, and that you're ready to take over. So that's where the collaboration between the vehicle and the driver comes, and that's where we would like to position ourselves. We want to be a real collaborative tool for drivers. It's not about the monitoring the driver, it's about helping the driver understand if he missed something. You're looking to the left, there's a pedestrian coming to the right, crossing the road in front of you. He doesn't see that you're just about to leave, and then all of a sudden you hit the guy. So those are the situations where you like to have enough intelligence and the context in real time to provide the real feedback to the driver, make sure that the crashes are a thing of the past.
Thomas, human computer collaboration or human car collaboration is the name of the game here. It's a very delicate balance. There's been tons of research still going on. As a matter of fact, our IP is in exactly that space, a lot of our IP. What is the context, right? I mean, you can't make this assistant, guardian, angel, this AI tool too dumb. It has to be smart and smart enough to understand the context, to understand what the driver wants, to understand the feedback. So this whole feedback loop. It gets pretty complex, but that's, I think, what differentiates really smart systems from, let's say just basic telematics, where people, I'm sure, you see that in the marketplace out there, where people say, these telematics systems, they just beat us. I'm sure, Peter, you see that all the time. So we want to somehow, distance ourselves from basic telematics. That was 20 years ago. We're doing more of a drivermatics. So really focus on the driver. The UI focus is also on the driver. We're there. We're an embedded system. We are there just for you, even if there's no connectivity, by the way, which is a very important point. We still support you because we don't rely on the cloud for real-time analytics.
That is what I'm kind of curious, and I'm going to grab your thoughts in a minute as well. One of the things I've heard in the telematics device is sometimes the compute is handled in the device on the edge. Some of the providers send it to a server, they digest it, and then they send it all the way back. With the mobile device, talk about how some of that works, because I feel like that's one of the things that a lot of fleets, when we're looking at just telematics and safety, I don't think they're really looking to the second and third layer to see how is that happening, how's it going to cost me extra, and how am I going to have to deal with that?
Sure. Yeah, it's revolutionary, right? I mean, I've been doing this, like I said, a long time, 30 years, and this is probably the first time within the last couple years that the insurance premium itself is not finite, right? There's some insurance companies right now that have integrated that telematics to give an opportunity for insurance or for trucking companies to modify their drivers' behavior, right? And you can actually see the insurance premium that's no longer static, fluctuate after a couple of months, where those motor carriers have the opportunity to redirect their behavior. I think as just like with phone technology, I think things are going to get sharper and sharper and more granular, and I think the wait time for a lot of that is gonna improve, especially when there's such an opportunity. I think Drive, I think you all were saying your goal is to reduce it's like $40 billion in losses with distracted driving. You guys want to reduce it like 25%. Mm-hmm. I mean, what a great platform to do it, right? And so that's what I'm thinking.
And let's talk a little bit about how it's helping fleets out as well. One of the things is, having the technology be getting the driver use case. One of the things I remember in fleet operations is drivers instinctively are now able to navigate some of these devices. They understand kind of how to work an Android or Apple device compared to some of these other platforms. How are these things being used to help nudge the drivers? Then we can dive into later how that's helping save costs.
Mm-hmm. Well, for instance, the latest version of the interface includes a very basic graphics that shows you relevant information like the current speed, the posted speed, the recommended speed, weather conditions, and a few check lights, if you wish, about distracted, drowsy, collision warning, tailgating. They blink when that condition is detected. You don't see yourself. You don't see the result of the camera. The camera is processing and giving you feedback. And then those visual clues that come with little sounds. So you don't even have to look at the screen. Once you get used to the sounds, you know what it is. It's excessive cornering or extreme braking. And then when you do it, you hear the sound, you got flagged or warned. We have warning and alerts and extreme alerts. So once it takes a few days to get used to the sound. You can also have messaging if you want, so the messages are spoken out, and you know exactly what this is about, but you can turn it off. The interface is completely programmable, depending on how expert you are with the system. You can go with a very streamlined version or a very rich one that acts like a driving instructor. And then once you don't need a driving instructor anymore, you just get a few little sounds here and there to help you avoid making mistakes. We also have an indication of the quality of the safety margins that you're keeping at any time. So you get warned if you're taking too much risk. And then we don't explain to you in time because you're busy dealing with the risks, but you can show after the fact on the dashboard in the cloud how your trip was performed. Your fleet manager can see it. You can discuss together how you performed. You have video clips at particular events. You have scores, running scores. You have statistic reports for yourself across the fleet. So all of that comes to the help of a fleet manager who can understand which drivers are doing a good job and how much better than others and why, and then they can share the results also.
I'm kind of curious because one of the things you all have the ability to do, sounds, voice, is there any haptic and wearables? Because one of the things I've noticed as I'm doing this in conversation, there's tons of little Slack messages. My poor little device is frantically buzzing at me. Is that kind of where the future? I've talked with OEMs like Volvo as well. A lot of companies are trying to integrate haptic feedback too. Yes. Is that one of the kind of new frontiers in addition when we're looking at safety tech?
Absolutely, yes. Today we are only notifying you if there's any push notification to the phone, so you can get it on the wristwatch. The problem with the vibration is that it's very difficult to have a large variety of feedback. So you feel the tremor, and you can change making pulsating, and you can have maybe 5-10 different signals, but the variety is limited. But it's definitely very effective. So whatever you're doing, you feel it, and whether it's somebody calling you or trying to call you, or you're doing excessive speeding for a prolonged time, then you get a little warning, and then you pay attention and say, okay, I need to do something. So it can be used, but it needs to be used carefully.
Yeah. Pete, I want to get your thoughts while we got a little bit of time left. One of the things, of course, you mentioned is kind of setting yourself apart, especially with insurance premiums rising. Huge conversation over the past 5 years. It's almost like we have to find ways to set ourselves apart, saying we're safer than the pack. How are fleets kind of utilizing this, and what are are there any pitfalls? Because there's so many options now. What should I be paying attention to? Because that's got to be one of the things. If I can't get paid more to haul stuff, I got to find other ways to save.
Sure. Yeah. And, commercial insurance, I mean, it's the leading loss leader. Like the 13-year average is, I want to say, God, it's exceeded 100% for combined ratios every, probably like $1.06. So they're basically, for every dollar in premium they're collecting, they're paying out $1.06, right? So, there's a reason why there's a hard market sometimes, like we're in right now, and there's a reason, and there's a lot of things that can be done if you build your program the right way, right? So I mean, if you've got high valuations on equipment, you can increase your deductible structure to work on that. If you've dipping your toe in the water in loss sensitive programs, and you've got good loss history and willing to take a little bit more risk, it can certainly reward you financially, down the road, because let's face it, out of 5 years, you're not going to have a severity loss every single year, right? So there's some definitely things that you can do to be proactive in that and not be reactive. And technology, like I said, is one of the biggest proponents and advantages, like Dreyev, because you have the ability, like we said earlier, drivers used to, fight tooth and claw and tooth and nail, not want to have a camera in their cab, right? Hang your hat rule and all that kind of stuff. And now they realize the benefit to having that type of technology, because it can exonerate them, right? I mean, you can upload that camera data, you can upload the telephone data to a highway patrolman and fight that accident that wasn't at fault before the end of the day. And that helps insurance companies, not only exonerate, it helps reduce accident reinvestigation time. It helps, if it is at fault, it helps insurance companies go ahead and settle the claim quicker. There's just a lot of different benefits that this technology, that the trucking companies are able to use that they weren't able to use earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And final thoughts as well. Looking ahead, one of the big things I hear is AI. That's the new buzzword. Everyone's putting AI in mobility. It used to be visibility and mobility. Maggie, as you're, being the CEO, looking ahead towards technologies, things on your radar, you all already have a very unique device-based, solution here. What are the things that you're thinking about as we're going into the next year? And how are you guys have any cool technology things over the horizon that folks should be aware of or upcoming?
Well, looking ahead, we're definitely, following that path of driver, machine, right? So how collaboration, very healthy balance of driver machine collaboration, or driver car in this case. We want the driver, i.e. the human, to be in control at the end of the day. So machines are very good at certain things. Humans are even better at certain things. You want to marry those things together in a, as perfect as possible collaboration, where the human eye may miss something, then the car can help us. So it's kind of like, having a trusted companion in your car on a very flexible platform that can travel with you wherever you are, which is what people are used to these days anywhere. And, we'd like to, I would say, see the world where every driver, whether it's a long-haul truck driver or last-mile van or gig driver, has access to the same intelligence safety tools than the big fleets are able to afford. And I think that for us is a prominent feature in our offering, that where data isn't just collected, is used responsibly to protect lives and livelihoods of people. And we can make it available to almost everybody. It's an app on your phone, very powerful, but made as simple as possible by Roberto and his team, and by wonderful advisors like Peter that we have here, that help us gear it to the actual needs of different segments of drivers in the marketplace.
If I may add one word on AI, because I had the specific request. We are using probably one of our favorite capabilities is the use of an agentic AI to examine the data that we have collected, so that you can extract high risk segments of roads that your drivers have been on. You can create the heat maps along those routes, so you can see which drivers in which time of the day or which day of the week or so routinely have issues, and what type of issues, and if there's anything that's common to all of them. So it's not that just single driver has a problem, the road has a problem. And then you can use that information to reroute the deliveries to make sure that you stay away from the high risk portions of the trips. That applies to the fleet manager, but also to insurance companies who may want to have the recommendation, say, stay away from that bridge and at this time of the day, because we see a heightened level of risk in potentially a higher number of crashes happening there.
Well, I like that dynamic.
And you can ask for it in free form. You don't have to know about the table, the data. You just ask for it, and then you gradually get to maps, and you can specify the constraints in which domain you want to apply it. Look at history, trends, and things, all by asking the agent.
Perfect. That's the future is dynamic in real time. So thank you all so much for hopping on the show. Pete, Roberto, Maggie, really appreciate y'all getting to hop on and give me some good information. Folks want to learn more about Drive. Check out what y'all are offering. What's the best way to get that info?
Dreyev.com. That's our website, Dreyev.com. There's an I hidden in that word, pronounced Drive. Please check us out. If you submit a form on the website, you'll get directly to me or Roberto or some of our team members. Please do that. Thank you.
Perfect. Before I do my outro, thank you all so much for hopping on. We will definitely catch up with you all again soon.
Pleasure being here. Thanks so much.
Well, that's going to be a wrap for this episode. But if you're just joining us, we're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, wherever you get your podcast needs. While you're at it, sign up for the newsletter, Loaded and Rolling. That's FreightWaves.com/loaded and rolling. And I write for stuff. You'll see me get around for sure. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll catch y'all again soon.